Chairman Smith, Ranking Member Wild, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you today to discuss the importance of protecting the freedoms of speech and expression. My name is Chris Pavlovsky. I'm a native of Toronto, Canada, and the chairman and CEO of Rumble. When I founded Rumble in 2013, incumbent platforms had become beholden to large creators, brands, and large corporations. Rumble provided an alternative for small and independent creators to speak their minds, express their opinions, own their narrative, build communities, and maximize their earnings. Our company was founded on a mission to protect a free and open internet, as we believe everyone benefits when there is a diverse marketplace of ideas, opinions, and dialogues. In late 2020 and into 2021, we realized the power of our mission as millions of users followed creators to the emerging platform with little to no marketing. Some of Rumble's largest creators, including former Congressman Devin Nunes, Dan Bongino, Glenn Greenwald, and former Democratic presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard also joined the platform during this time. As a result, Rumble saw its average monthly active users increase dramatically from 1.6 million in the third quarter of 2020 to 36 million in the third quarter of 2021. In other words, we saw an increase of 22.5 times the number of users in just one calendar year. In September of 2022, Rumble successfully went public, relocating our headquarters to the United States and trading on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol RUM, R-U-M. We've expanded our video content into new verticals like sports, lifestyle, hip hop, and video gaming. Beyond the video sharing platform, Rumble now offers the Rumble Advertising Center, Rumble Studio live streaming software, and the Rumble Cloud. Freedom of speech and freedom of expression are the cornerstones of a democratic society. I know that's not a foreign idea to the members on this subcommittee who have witnessed these rights used to protest tyrannical governments around the world and inequalities here in the United States. Freedom of expression is so important that not only is it the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, but it is also Article 19 in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Without these freedoms, we may have never learned the stories of Frederick Douglass during the abolition movement in the 1830s, or witnessed the civil rights movement of the 1960s, the women's rights movements of the 1970s, or the Arab Spring in the early 2010s. It is extremely troubling to me that in 2024, I have to come before the US Congress to testify that these fundamental rights are being threatened. For years, we saw platforms shadow ban ideas they did not agree with. It was subtle suppression of ideas and opinions that did not fit the norm as dictated by algorithms. Today, the censorship we see is much more overt. Governments are acting in ways we only imagined happening 50 to 60 years ago, openly asking platforms to censor and take down disfavored content. They are back in the business of thinking they know what's best, dictating and controlling conversations and stripping the human right to speak and share freely. These are not theoretical fears. These things are happening, and I know this personally as the CEO of a platform that receives demands from governments around the world. One of the first instances of government censorship we experienced did not come as a surprise, as it came from communist China. Communist governments often crack down on a variety of freedoms, including freedom of expression. However, we were surprised in 2022 when we received a request from the French government to block certain news sources. People can certainly question the trustworthiness of news sources, but it should not be any government's job to selectively eliminate access to information. Rather than comply with the French government's request, we simply disabled the access to the platform in France and challenged the legality of this demand. To be clear, Rumble has a strong set of content guidelines under our terms and conditions, but the content the French government was asking us to censor did not violate any of our terms. Instead, it was regarding Russian news outlets. Earlier this year, we received requests from the Brazilian government to remove certain creators from our platform. Again, the content did not violate our terms and conditions, but instead shared opinions that were unpopular in Brazil at the time. Rumble made a very tough decision not to comply with the government's request. As with France, We chose to disable access for our users in Brazil while we challenged the legality of the Supreme Court's demands. It does not stop there. Just last month, we received requests from New Zealand and Australia to censor politically unpopular content. Countries in every hemisphere, all of the members of the United Nations, are no longer upholding the human right to freedom of expression. This is getting out of control, and it should alarm everyone in this room. As this committee knows, the United States is involved in so many initiatives to protect democracy around the world. But when it comes to defending the freedom of speech and protecting American businesses who attempt to uphold this right in Brazil, the United States has been silent. It cannot remain so. It does not matter which platform hosts the content. Today it is Rumble, yesterday it was X, but tomorrow it could be the New York Times. The platform shouldn't matter. The universal right to freedom of speech and expression, the core of Western democracy, is at stake. America needs to step up and take a leading role. Rumble will never back down from our mission. We are the tip of the spear in this fight, and we relish that. We urge everyone, especially the US State Department, to join us. I'll close with one final thought. Every totalitarian regime that has crushed the rights of individuals has sought to control what people can say and hear. It's never the good guys doing the censoring. If the United States won't stand up for freedom of speech, who will? Thank you again for the opportunity to be with you today. I look forward to taking your questions.
Now, if you didn't hear that Chris Pavlovsky testified, I want to say Senate, but I forget if it's a Senate hearing or a congressional hearing. If you didn't know that Chris Pavlovsky testified yesterday on online censorship, there might be a damn good reason for that. It's the best kept secret that there were investigations, or at least Senate hearings, and Chris is testifying about how Rumble has been getting requests from governments, and not just the bad ones, the good governments, to take down politically disfavored speech. And you wouldn't have known that Rumble was blacklisted or banned in Russia about a month ago. You wouldn't know this because I guess it might make Rumble look like a good guy in this battle for free speech. It might make Rumble not look like a pro-Putin Russian asset. It might make Chris Pavlovsky look like a principled business person, a principled social media platform owner who's actually defending the rights of everybody, friend or foe, to have the God-given right to freedom of speech. For those of you out there saying they're private companies, it's not freedom of speech. Bullcrap when you have governments asking private companies to suppress speech of others. That's a problem. So if you hadn't heard about that, I figured I'd put Chris's opening statement on blast because it's a wonderfully eloquent opening statement. I put it on Twitter yesterday, and I figured, well, why not just give it a little extra blast today? Start the stream not just an hour and a half early, but 5 minutes early, because Dr. Chris Martenson, you may remember him from such live streams that we had. I remember this one when we did it. It was about 2 years ago. I was in the bathroom of an Airbnb up in Mont-Tremblant, Quebec, and we did an amazing podcast. I had to find the only quiet place in the house because we were two families sharing an Airbnb 2 years ago. And have things changed, and have certain predictions and certain concerns come to fruition? We're going to get to that in a second. We're really going to end on Rumble. We're going to end on YouTube very quickly and go over to Rumble. I wanted to put Chris's opening statement on blast on YouTube, only so that we could say, hey, did you know that happened yesterday? Stay tuned for more of it. And did you know that Rumble was banned in Russia? I bet you didn't, because there's basically a media blackout covering what is a very, very important piece of news, interesting development, and how maybe they're not on par on all levels. But France asks Rumble to take down content. They say no. Brazil asks them to take down content. They say no. New Zealand. I don't want to make a mistake on any countries. And now Russia. Might make you think, if Russia is a totalitarian regime that silences dissent and dissidents, and yet France, Brazil, and New Zealand are doing the same thing, maybe we're not following in the good example. Maybe we're not necessarily the good guys in all respect. All right. And with that said, by the way, speaking of health and diet and all that stuff, we're going to get into it today. You may have noticed when you stepped into the stream, it said contains a paid promotion, because it does, people. And it's one of our favorites. They're all our favorites, actually. Field of Greens, people. Healthy diet, healthy lifestyle, exercise, sunlight, get your fruits and veggies in your body. Most people don't. You're supposed to have between 5 to 7 servings of raw fruits and vegetables a day. And most people do not have that. Why? Because Fruits and vegetables contain antioxidants, nutrients, cancer-fighting agents, and all the good stuff. And most people say have a colorless diet, a lot of brown foods and not the green colors or the red colors from the beets and the arugula. And if you don't get your 5 to 7 servings of raw fruits and vegetables in your diet a day, you might want to, in any event, what's the word? Supplement that, but it's not a supplement, it's a food. You might want to get a spoonful of Field of Greens twice a day. One spoonful, it's a desiccated fruit and vegetable, not a supplement, not an extract. It's a food. USDA organic, made in America. It's delicious. You stir it in a glass of water twice a day. You cut out a bad habit, that disgusting aspartame-filled Diet Coke that you think is a healthy alternative. You have it twice a day. You're getting antioxidants. You're doing good stuff for your gut. You're doing good stuff for your body. And you are living a healthy life while cutting out the bad habits. If you go to fieldofgreens.com, promo code VIVA, you'll get 15% off your order and free rush shipping. It tastes delicious. I make the joke all the time. It looks like swamp water, but there's a reason why swamp water is nutritious, the nutrient of life, where life comes from, and it tastes delicious. So you'll feel good about yourself, and you'll feel good. The promo code or the link is in the description. We're going to start on YouTube by bringing in Chris, and we're going to introduce him for those of you who don't know him, and then we're going to end on YouTube, go over to Rumble, and I'll make the executive decision as to whether or not we post this entire stream on YouTube, given what we're going to talk about. And tell you what, at least one of the topics is going to rhyme with AstraZeneca and ivermectin. We're talking about some recent breaking developments and stuff that you might not have heard because media ain't covering. Dr. Martenson, sir, are you ready to come in? He looks ready. All right. Yeah. Sir, how goes the battle?
Good. How are you? It's so good to be back with you. Real upgrade from the bathroom, but that worked too.
Well, you know what? Here, I can do this. Let me see. I'll bring it out. It looks, this looks better. We'll do it like this. I have to. It was 2 years ago. Now I don't know if it was just under 2 years or already over 2 years, but I remember it was a sidebar. We had Barnes on. I had only been recently introduced to you at the time, and I go do my homework and bone up, and I learn a lot of stuff before we do the interview. But I know a lot of your crowd is going to be here. I suspect all of my crowd knows who you are, but just in case there's a lot of new people in here, who are you? The 30,000-foot overview.
I am Chris Martenson. I have a PhD in pathology, subspecialty toxicology, and however, I'm not an economist, but I play one on the internet. I have a big community over at peakprosperity.com, and we look at systems level things like how's the economy connect to energy, connect to health. I like to see how things connect, so I'm a dot connector. And some people call me a futurist, but I'm not. I'm a trend extrapolationist. I just see where things are going. And it's a big, complicated world. And honestly, my moniker for the people who subscribe to my service is I am an information scout. I go out and figure out what's going on. I boil it down and present it to people. That's my role.
And I pulled up this. It's not even a joke because it's true. Dr. Martenson is one of the original OG truth tellers of the pandemic. Before we even get into some of the juice of the day, what were some of your earlier predictions or your earlier queries, concerns as to what was going on and how have they panned out over time?
Pretty well. My first video that I blasted out to the world, it got actually the most views, around coronavirus. I put that out on January 23rd, 2020. And I told people this is coming. It's going to have massive economic impacts. How deadly it is, we don't know yet. I explained what a coronavirus was. And I also said, flat out, get hand sanitizer, masks, and toilet paper. Right? Because I just knew what was coming. And so that was January 23rd. By February 5th, this was my first scratchy record moment. Something is seriously off. My Wikipedia page, which had been up for 12 years, got taken down because I was spreading misinformation already because I was at odds. The New York Times was saying it's just the flu, bro. And I was like, no, it looks more than that, and so it was taken down by one of those mysterious editors of Wiki, we don't know if they graduated high school. We don't know what their creds are, but it was taken down because I was a non-notable person whose scientific endeavors had not been recent enough for their taste. And so I was speaking out of turn and they took down my page.
This is all that's left of it. If you try to look up Chris Martenson Wikipedia,
yeah,
right?
It's gone.
So
it's gone. I'm a published author. I'm a scientist. I've got a really big following. I've done a lot of notable things, but not according to Wiki. So that, and I knew Wiki at that time was a deep state information narrative machine. So that was one. Two, I suddenly got all these YouTube, subscribers were coming in, and I had the misfortune. It was in March I surfaced a paper that came from the NIH that in SARS Classic, not SARS-CoV-2, but the first one from 2003, that they had discovered in 2005 that this substance called hydroxychloroquine, or in that case, chloroquine phosphate, was very successful at blocking the replication of that virus. So I posted that just innocently, because I'm like just a guy out here with a Comcast connection, which is internet in the States, figuring out how things worked. And I posted that and I just got squished. That was it. That was maxed out, not getting any more subscribers, hemorrhaging thousands, and the reach suddenly stopped. And that was my second scratchy record moment. And this is before Trump had even mentioned it. And we can blame this on Trump derangement syndrome. So that's when I realized I was up against an organized criminal element.
And not to rub it in your face, Chris. Even I have a Wikipedia. I don't understand why mine is red. All that's saying,
it's red.
some schnook making videos in his cars. Yeah, Wikipedia page. Dr. Chris Martenson, who's been on the internet, published. No wiki for you. Okay, I think that's going to be good enough for Rumble, for YouTube. Let's move on over to Rumble. The link is in there, people. It's in the pinned comment, but just in case, skip on over also and come right to locals, and we might have time for some exclusive Q&A afterwards. Hold on, let me just make sure the link is up here. Okay, so move on over. That's all we need to do for YouTube, but I'll bring up one. Oh, no, forget. I'll bring that one up afterwards. Okay, done. Okay, now